every single person in this entire world has had a time where they hear a song and the hairs on your neck just stand up and it just takes you back to a certain moment. I started to have a think about, hey, we should do a little fun classics party with our friends in the backyard, play all the old house tunes from back in the day. Maybe we should do a countdown. Originally, it was kind of like replicating the Triple J Hottest 100. Everyone was like, you should do that at a club and make it an actual event. And one thing led to another, and we thought, okay, let's do it. The first day that we went on sale, we sold 2,500 tickets straight away. We ended up getting Fatboy Slim.
It started off in your backyard, and the biggest show you've done was 10,000 capacity festival, which is that's a big, interesting journey. Corey, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you very much, my man. Lovely to be here.
I'm glad to have you. The winter in Melbourne is not something I am missing whatsoever. It's currently 30 degrees and sunny.
No, I can imagine not. Yeah, it was actually in the minus yesterday. It was -1 or something in the morning. So the days have actually been really nice and sunny, which is great. I can see the bay from here, so it's always good. But yeah, the mornings are cold.
Yeah, I bet. Well, we'll get stuck into it. So if you could give an elevator pitch of who you are, what you do, and how you contribute to the world, what would that sound like?
I am Corey Topp. I am a event promoter and marketer at heart, and I would say an entertainer. I'm not the one entertaining, but I provide the entertainment for people. Mm-hmm. And I guess contributing to the world is probably a deeper meaning to what we do at my main brand, which is Reminisce. We do a countdown of house classic music. People vote for the music and then it gets played in a countdown from 50 to 1. But contributing to the world, probably in the last 2-3 years, we've started giving back. We're giving to Australian Alzheimer's Research Foundation, $1 from every ticket, plus we're making a mandatory donation for our guest list. So that in itself has been a really good exercise, and it's led me to sort of dive deeper into the meaning of our brand and what we do. And music brings back memories, and obviously Alzheimer's is a disease that affects the memory. So it's all kind of really intertwined. There's music therapy for Alzheimer's patients. I've got a family history of Alzheimer's. Every single female in my entire family has got it. Has had it and or got it, which is really scary. My mum doesn't have it, so that's just amazing and something that I'm thankful for every day. But yeah, so to be able to go to work and put on these events and 10,000 person festivals and people dancing and having a great time and whatnot is amazing. But then to think, hey, this is actually going deeper and providing for the greater cause is something that's really, really special to me, and has definitely lit me up over the last few years, because doing something for so long, it can kind of get repetitive. But this has definitely given us a new lease on what we're doing.
Love that.
That wasn't really an elevator pitch, but
that's okay. It was. We just went 80 floors, but no, I love that, and I think you hit a nail on the head there, where having a deeper purpose and being able to give back and support is actually much more of a motivating force than just like making money. So hit the secret. Hit the secret.
Yeah, it's it just helps when you're having a down day. Things don't always go to plan, especially in this game. You know that all too well. And so when you kind of look back and go, hey, it's not all that bad, and you're providing for a greater cause, then yeah, it just helps you keep moving, and yeah, it gives you a much more of a purpose.
Of course. So with that in mind, you've had quite a lot of success in the events world. You are running a solid marketing business now. You're moving in a great direction. Things seem to be really solid in your life and business. The decisions you make stem from your life experiences in your early years. So what are the contexts of that early year that would allow us to kind of understand you better as a human?
Yeah. In the little chat that we had before, I spoke about being a student of the universe and always very curious. And I think that it probably ties back into that. I've done a lot of self-exploration and a lot of personal growth, a lot of therapy. And I feel like I'm probably a very resilient person, and that's probably the number one trait that I think you need to have success in anything in life, because you're always going to hit huge roadblocks. So I had a bit of stuff happen to me when I was young. Plenty of people had it worse, but everyone's got their own story. That kind of carved out that resilience, and I almost feel like probably got me to live my life with a bit of a chip on my shoulder, like I need to prove something to the world. And I've always taken inspiration from that. It took me a while to understand it and to understand that it was a good thing. But then you look at guys, I'm a massive sport fan. I love all sports. And you look at guys like Tom Brady and Kobe Bryant, Michael Jordan, these sorts of guys who are just absolute savages they just want to be the best, and they'll do whatever it takes to get there. And they're just so resilient, and their work ethic is just off the charts. So I think I've looked at those experiences that crafted me when I was younger, that gave me that resilience, gave me that chip on my shoulder, modeled what I do around these sort of sports, elite sports athletes. And yeah, I think that's kind of given me a good foundation to be able to push through all the shit that comes with being in business, being an event promoter, running festivals, going through a pandemic and all of that.
I feel like having a chip on your shoulder is the minimum requirement to be an event promoter.
Yeah, no doubt.
You gotta be willing to cop it and make some big bets in things that don't make sense, just to do some fun things. It's a wild game, isn't it? So on that note, could you please describe the journey of Reminisce as your core, if that's your core driver of what you've been focusing on? Because I know it started off in your backyard, and the biggest show you've done was 10,000 Capacity Festival, which is that's a big, interesting journey. So I'd love to hear more about that.
Yeah, so it actually all started when I was driving along in my car one day, and I'd just broken up with my girlfriend, so I was in a bit of a shit headspace, and Music Sounds Better With You by Stardust came on. And it just instantly transported my mood. I went from being down in the dumps to just being up and about, and it just kind of took me back to, the years before where I'd been out and going to clubs and whatnot. And I kind of thought, hey, there's just something in that, like the power of music. Every single person in this entire world has had a time where they hear a song and the hairs on your neck just stand up, and it just takes you back to a certain moment. And so I started to get curious about the power of that. And then I started to have a think about, hey, we should do a little fun classics party with our friends in the backyard, play all the old house tunes from back in the day. And then I started thinking about maybe we should do a countdown. Originally, it was kind of like replicating the Triple J Hottest 100, which for those who might be not in Australia it's actually the biggest musical democracy in the world. So I think they get about 700,000 votes from all around Australia of people voting for their favourite song from the past year, whereas what I wanted to do was vote from all time of house music. Anyway, one thing led to another. We decided to have a backyard party with our friends, and we got everyone to vote. I made up an email address. They sent me in their top 20. I tallied it, printed it out, literally tallied it on a bit of paper with a pen, and then got the top 50 songs, and we had to make it. Everyone had to vote for their top 20. Otherwise, we wouldn't have had enough songs to make up a top 50, which is funny now that I think about it. And there was about 30 of us, little 3x3 tent, and we were in the backyard, and we had an absolutely rocking night. And that was kind of the start of everything. And then I went away to Europe, came back, was all motivated, and had a massive, amazing time, my first Europe trip, and was kind of like, at the time I was working as a plumber, and I'd been promoting nightclubs and DJing and everything for totally the past 5 years before that. And everyone was like, you should do Reminisce actually, it wasn't even called Reminisce back then. It didn't have a name. Everyone was like, you should do that at a club and make it an actual event. And one thing led to another, and we thought, okay, let's do it. And then, to get the name, we were thinking about what can this be called? And we thought, what is it? And we're thinking about, it's this musical utopia. Like, we're going to call it Utopia. We're going to call it Your Night, You Decide, all these shit names. And I kept saying, there's one fucking word that just says everything, but I just can't think of it. And then I remember my friend Ozzy, he wrote on my Facebook wall, because, you know, that's what you used to do back then. And it just said reminisce ? And I was like, that's it. Like, that's the word, reminisce. And that's what it's always been ever since. So we did the party. We did it at a club. We sold it out. It was 1,000 people, and it all stemmed from there. And then it just grew every year. It sold out quicker and quicker. And we've had 2 moves now where we've gone to a rooftop party, which was a little bit of an increase in capacity, 1,000 to 1,500. And then in 2019, we made the big jump and went to the Sydney My Music Bowl in Melbourne, which was 1,500 to 10,000, which was an interesting jump, and man, that was a roller coaster, but we pulled it off and here we are.
So what made you say to yourself, you know what? We are selling 1,500 tickets. Let's go to 10,000.
Yeah, it was from the very start. I was always like, Reminisce has something special. There's always been this stickiness ever since we did the first one. People are so engaged in the brand. They feel like they own the brand as well because they contribute to it, they vote. We've always sold out really quickly, and it was just sticky from day one. So I always thought when I say always, that's actually a lie. We never wanted it at the start to become anything. It was just something fun that we were doing. But then once it became something, that's when I started to think, hey, this is something special. So that's when we talked about scaling it for quite a while. In 2016, we were going to move to Riva. And then we ended up getting, at the last minute, offered Fatboy Slim to do a Australia Day beach party at Riva. Mm-hmm. So then we thought, okay, let's do that. So we did that. I've actually got artwork that says Reminisce with Fatboy Slim.
That would have been
we
crazy.
Had the whole artwork done. So it was going to be Reminisce with Fatboy Slim. And then at the last minute, his management came in and just said, nah, like, we're doing a solo show. It's Fatboy Slim only. There's no Reminisce. You guys can do a countdown before if you want, but it's not called Reminisce. And that's when we just at the last minute said, okay, cool, let's go back to Prince.
Imagine if you were just you know what, fuck you. We're not booking you.
Yeah, exactly. We could have. No. That Fatboy Slim show ended up being awesome though.
Yeah, no, but, I can imagine.
Yeah, so it was actually, it's been an interesting journey, definitely not linear. And then, yeah, it got to 2019 or 2018 for the 2019 show. And that's when we were like, okay, we've been talking about this for 2-3 years. We are going to go to Riva. Then for whatever reason, we couldn't do Riva. We're like, fuck it, let's have a crack and try to do something massive. Mm. And this goes back to my sort of marketing system that I teach everyone these days with my agency. But we thought, okay, we can't just make an assumption and just think everyone's going to be into this. So we did a lot of research and a lot of polling. We polled our audience. We said to them, if we're going to scale Reminisce, where should we do it? When should we do it? Which DJs and acts do you want? And we just basically asked them what they wanted.
Was this through email? Through like a database?
Darndest. Yeah, we emailed it out to our database. We posted on socials as well. Just use a Google form. And we just asked people if we were going to scale Reminisce, where would you want it? And all those questions. And they gave us all the data that we needed, validated the idea, still had to put our balls on the line. And also we knew that I'm not going to say couldn't do it alone, but it would have been a real slog if we tried to go it alone. So we approached Hardware, who are now still our business partners to this day. They'd run the biggest festivals in Australia, Stereosonic, Two Tribes, these massive, massive festivals, and they had the big event muscle that we needed. So it was an amazing partnership from day one.
That partnership's an interesting one because from the small promoter side of things, being where you were, my headspace would be that a promoter like Hardware wouldn't be interested in partnering because they do their own festivals. How did you manage to make that be a valuable and compelling consideration for them?
Yeah, when I look back now, you're absolutely right. There definitely was a little bit of that in it. I remember we fudged the numbers to
Classic.
to them a little bit. we told them that we were selling, I think we're saying 2,000, but it really wasn't. I think it was actually only about 1,200 or 1,500 or something like that. So we bumped it up a little bit. We just had to sell them the dream. You know, I'm a massive believer in vision, and I've always found in my life, whenever I've had a really, really strong vision for something, it's gone well. Whenever I've maybe been doing something that was more out of like, oh, this is a good opportunity to make money, or this is a good, you know, being a bit more opportunistic in your mindset, it's never flown for me. It's always crashed and burned. But whenever I've had just a deep vision inside me, that's always done really well. So I've always had that vision for Reminisce, and I think I probably sold that pretty well to them. We made up a deck. Again, I'm a massive believer in you can do anything with a good deck. And so we made up an awesome deck, and we went in there, a lot of storytelling. You know, everything about sales and marketing is all storytelling. And we just come up with a pretty compelling pitch. And then Richie, the boss of Hardware, was still not 100% sold. We needed the other guys that were our friends and colleagues that worked for Hardware to get him across the line. And then I remember the first day that we went on sale, we sold 2,500 tickets straight away. And then I just remember Damo, who was working for Hardware at the time, messaging me going, Richie's happy, he's jumping around the office, he's stoked. I was like, yes, we're on, and that was it.
Nice. That's good, man. That's good. It's, you got to have a bit of gusto, don't you?
Absolutely. And at the time, I think I was still 33 years old. I wasn't young, but I was probably a bit naive to the risks, the liability, the insurance, all of that sort of red tape of doing such a big festival that I obviously know now. That was probably a good thing. Yeah. I just said, it was me. It was just branding, marketing. This is going to be awesome. Like, let's just go, go, go. And so that was definitely something that enabled me to keep focused and keep on track with what we're doing.
So to recap, if you have an opportunity come your way that feels like it's out of your depth, you need to be able to learn how to sell the dream, and you need to be able to communicate it effectively in a deck, and you just need to go in with a bit of naivety and confidence, and that's all you can really do. And hopefully they like you.
Yeah. If you have got belief in something, just an unwavering belief, then absolutely, just totally go for it. And people buy into people. They don't necessarily buy into ideas or brands or whatnot. They'll buy into people. So if people can see in you that you've got a fire and you've got total unwavering belief in what you're doing, that is so powerful and will go a long way to getting you what you want. Now, on the other hand, with what I said before, if you feel in your gut that it's not quite right, you might just be doing it to please someone else, or because your partner wants you to, or because you think you might make some money out of it. Anytime I've done anything like that, it hasn't flown. And so when you've got that, just trust your gut. Like, I'm so massive on gut instinct.
Have you ever sat back, now that you guys have worked together for nearly 5 years, and you've had a few ups and downs, a few big wins, have you ever gone to Richie and gone, hey man, why did you say yes?
No, I haven't actually.
I'd be curious.
No, that'd be a good conversation to have.
A great conversation to have. If you do that, let me know. Yeah. I'd love to be a fly on the wall and understand the way of thinking and what he thought, because there's probably a lot of insights in that for people.
Yeah, absolutely. I'll definitely do that, and it'd be interesting to know myself as well.
Yeah. So on the note of event marketing and building out campaigns, there's two elements to it. There's the art and there's the science. So how have you gone about balancing those two aspects in the events you throw, and what are probably a few techniques that you could share to allow people to get the right framework of thinking around it?
Yeah, so you're absolutely right. Any marketing is part art, part science. And I've found over the years that event marketing is definitely more on the art side. And so I'm more of an artist than I am a scientist. And with certain clients that I've worked with over the years, doesn't have to be in events. I've worked with clients across B2B. I've worked in Big Four banking, gambling, a ton of different verticals. And I've noticed that there's been times where it's needed more science. And I've either handed over to someone else or said to the guys, hey, this is probably not, in my wheelhouse. You need a full-on scientist to be doing this stuff. But for events, it's definitely, as I said, more on the art side. That's because it's more creative. Like a good piece of artwork compared to a shit piece of artwork is literally the difference between whether your event will go or not. It's so important. Yeah, massively. Yeah. The artwork forms the personality and the feel and the vibe for everything. Now, if you got a blank piece of paper and wrote in pen Taylor Swift free concert on it and put it up on the wall, well, no one's going to give a shit about that artwork, right? Because she's her own artwork. She's her own brand. But if you're starting a brand, then absolutely your look is important. Now, that's not to say that it has to look polished and amazing, because your brand might be grungy and, it might be a little bit of that sort of in the dirt, grungy techno or, whatever it is. It's just got to be relevant to your audience. So that's the first thing. Get your artwork right and make sure that it's relevant and that it appeals to your audience. And then in terms of from an event point of view and an event marketing point of view, from the art versus science, you still need to measure things, track things, work out what works and what doesn't, test things and try things and document that, whether that's going to work or not. But if you're talking about, and I'm talking from an advertising point of view here, if you're advertising your event, you don't necessarily have the luxury or the bandwidth throughout your event campaign to say, okay, I'm going to split test 100 different variations of my artwork or, these photos or videos, because then your engagement is spread and diluted all around all of these variations. And as you know, social proof is a very, very important factor in getting people to come to your event. We're all creatures of habit, and we have inbuilt in us, we have the herd mentality. So if you see a launch post or a flyer for an event and it's got one like on it, you're going to think, oh, why is no one going to that? It's not all about likes and shares and comments, but it kind of is as well. So you've got to be conscious of that, and that's why event marketing is really important to show that social proof and to get people knowing that, hey, there's other people interested in this, it must be good.
So how do you potentially manufacture social proof when you don't have it in the past without being fake?
Yeah, really, really important. So you've got to be strategic with what you're doing and kind of use stepping stones to build up to it. So if you're starting a brand from scratch and you want to build up your social proof, you must, what I would do if I was someone starting a brand, and I literally did this at the start of the year, I started a brand new brand called Tailgate. I started pushing it from my personal brand first. And I sent out a survey. I didn't tell people the name of the event or anything like that. I just asked them if they were interested. Would they be interested in a Super Bowl festival that was a festival style rather than just going to a pub? And then people put in their interest. They filled out their expression of interest in the form, got about 350 people respond saying, yeah, I'd be keen on that. Then I put that into a database, bang, I've got my first 350 people that are interested. They don't even know what they're interested in yet, but I've given them the general idea. That validated my idea. And then I went and came up with the concept, came up with the artwork and everything like that. I did a soft launch of the brand. I did another expression of interest, which was more around, hey, this is what we're going to be doing. If you're interested in finding out when tickets go on sale, let us know. Got another 300 or so names. So I had 500-600 people that had shown interest in this potential event. And then I leveraged that to get my initial burst of social proof. Now, when we launched this thing, we had amazing looking artwork. We invested in it heavily. And we also and I did this back when we started Reminisce 12 years ago, just got in the trenches and just asked every single person that I could possibly think of that would be remotely interested in this event if they would help and get around it and like, comment, share on the launch. Now, you could say that's fake, but it's not, because it's not fake. It's, I think manufactured was the word that you used. Maybe it's a little bit manufactured, but these people were genuinely interested. I didn't ask people who I knew that wouldn't be interested in the Super Bowl, right? You just got to roll the sleeves up and just grind and just get that initial base. And then from there, then you can launch it out. And that's what we did. So as a really long-winded way of saying is if you're starting off, you do just need to hustle. And sometimes you just got to ask people.
How has the hustle changed as the scale develops?
Definitely has. I would say that there's less of that reaching out and asking people to like, comment, share, say for an established brand now like Reminisce, because it already has that really strong brand and a lot of engagement in it. That being said, you still should have a program or a process in place. When I say program, I don't mean software. I just mean a process in place where you and your team, if you've got an established brand, you're generally going to have a team. They all get around, liking, commenting, sharing posts when they first go out. Now, that might be a team that you may have then a team of promoters, influencers, just a general team of brand advocates. So going back into the sellout marketing system that I teach, I have 4 audience archetypes: brand advocates, fans, fence sitters, and waftams, which is waste of fucking time and money. So they're the people that you don't want to worry about, because they're never going to come to your event. But if you think about it in that way, brand advocates, fans, and fence sitters, your brand advocates are your people who'll always get around everything that you're doing at the start. So you want to have a think about who they are and then get them into a database, put them into a list, in your certain database. Email them out first and say, hey guys, we're launching the event next week. We're going to give you all a comp ticket or a VIP ticket or a discounted ticket if you guys can get around it. So you've got that core brand advocate group. And they're the guys who you want to use to get that initial social proof. And then you want to think about your fans. They're the people who know the brand, they love the brand. They may not be a brand advocate, but they're always going to come. And so they're the guys that you're probably speaking to second. When you first launch, they'll always get around. They'll probably tag a few friends. They'll buy tickets straight away. And then your fence sitters, they're the ones that you're targeting to get off the fence of like, oh, maybe I'll go, maybe I won't. That's when your job as a marketer starts, which is from, say, after the first week of your campaign till you get up to the run home, which is the last week or two. You're targeting your fence sitters. And all you're trying to do is get people off the fence, because that's the hardest thing to do.
Mm. It's an interesting one with the people who are the brand advocates, the ones who are always going to buy and probably are the ones who are going to buy for the highest price, yet they're also the ones who tend to get the best value because they're in first. Like, is there a way to reward the early people while also getting the most financially out of the people who value it the most?
It's a good question, and it's an interesting model that we have, and that's almost been done since the very start, and it's the same, the whole pre-sale, first release, second release, etc. I mean, there's a reason why, because it does work. I think that the value that you get out of your brand advocates and rewarding them for getting involved early is a good thing, because I think it comes back to in the long run, because they feel like, hey, I'm special. I get the best tickets, the best deal. Of course, I'm going to help, like, comment, share, tell my friends, support the brand. And so I think it works well. Your number one supporters, the people who, they probably would pay extra, then they get rewarded anyway. And I actually find that some people that have been our biggest supporters since the start, that have been to every single Reminisce, they'll buy the VIP ticket, so they will spend the most.
That's what I was just thinking.
And some of them actually are my best friends. And I've got friends, I can think of probably 10 off the top of my head, who are my closest friends, and they never bat an eyelid. They've never asked for a free ticket in their entire life. And they'll buy the VIP tickets, they'll support, because they know how hard we work. They know what goes on in the background. They know it's not all sunshine and rainbows and we're swimming in our pools of money and it's just, all this amazing life. They know it's tough. And yeah, I value those people so much more, Sorry, not so much more, but just so much.
I mean, speak for yourself on the pools of money thing. If you sell your festival to FSX for $100 million, then
well, I didn't do that. But,
someone does. Someone
Richie
does.
did. Yeah.
Although that, to be fair, is also a complete edge case that has not happened for a very, very long time, if ever, probably ever.
It was actually funny. So I was having a chat to Rich the other day, and I'm absolutely certain that he won't mind me saying this. I was going to get him onto as a joint guest for one of my workshops that I do for my Sellout Academy, so my private members workshop, just to come in and shoot the shit, tell the story about stereo, and talk about what got it to take off. Like, why does he think that it was so successful? And he just said, mate, I'll say this, and in the workshop, it was a moment in time. Now, that's not to say that they didn't work their ass off and they weren't amazing at what they did, because they were. But sometimes timing, and so many successful entrepreneurs will tell you this. Mark Cuban says it all the time. Timing can be everything, and you need a shitload of luck to become that's what Cuban says. You need a shitload of luck to become a billionaire. And Richie says the same thing. That it was a moment in time, and they aligned themselves perfectly with the massive boom of EDM, the 2010, 11, 12 sort of glory days, as people would call it, Avicii, Swedish House Mafia, or, when Tiesto was blowing up. I mean, it was just a moment in time, and it was just one of those things that just took off, and it grew its own culture.
Well, I mean, I went to many a Stereosonic, so...
We all did. Yeah. Absolutely.
That's where I cut my teeth promoting tickets. I think the best year we did about 700 between our crew.
Yeah. It's so funny. A lot of the promoters that are doing great things now all had the same journey. They sold shitloads of tickets to stereo, and now they're running parties and doing great things. It's fascinating.
Maybe it's the music industry's equivalent of being a door knocker. Have you heard where, like, those door knockers tend to become really successful business people, and a lot of the really wealthy and successful business owners or businessmen are like, and women are used to door knock in their early years.
Do you know why that is, though?
Because they get rejected.
Because they get used to rejection.
Yeah, bad. Yeah.
It's fascinating. Going back to talking about me being a student of the universe at the start of this chat, I'm so fascinated by that stuff, and it's a really interesting insight. People who are okay with rejection tend to be the people who get rejected the most but they have the most success because they're happy with rejection.
Yeah. I mean, I get rejected all the time. All the fucking time.
Don't we?
It's
don't
crazy. And it's funny how many, I mean, there's a fine line to it because you can annoy people. But there have been doors that have opened after the 5th or 6th rejected. And it's crazy to think that you could just let that go, and then some of those doors can be life-changing.
Absolutely. And I have found that that's probably the one thing, and I spoke about before about resilience. It kind of goes hand in hand, right? You need that resilience. You need to be okay with rejection. But I've found that that was the one thing, if I look back, because I toiled away for a long time and I was growing and doing some cool things, but realistically, I look back now, I wasn't really getting anywhere in the sense of financially, growing my business, those sorts of things, if you use those as a measurement of success. When that shifted was when I became okay with rejection and knew that every no is one step closer to your first yes. And one quote that has always stuck with me, I referenced this guy on the last podcast I went on too. He's going to be like, mate, what's going on? This is a different quote though. Some will, some won't. So what? Someone's waiting. Love that quote, and it's always stuck with me. And it was to do with sales at the time, but I think it's anything in life. Whether you're looking for a partner, whether you're on a sales call, whether you're pitching for investment, it's the same principle. Next, I probably used to sit there and stew, why didn't that person, buy this product I was trying to sell? Why do these people not want to come to Reminisce? Why aren't these people interested in using my marketing services? I just spent 2 weeks on this massive pitch and these people just messaged me and said, nah, we're not in. And then when I had this little bit of time working with Alex, he would just be like, next. I was like, fuck, right, that's it. Next. And so that just became my mentality. And after that, I feel like everything sort of shifted, and it's just wake up every day, take massive action, learn from your mistakes, learn from your no's, but just move on. Just next. And yeah, that was a real game changer for me.
How did you begin to disassociate and lose the attachment to the rejection, tying it into you being a failure? Because that's what it is at the core.
Yes, exactly. And it's funny, I'm stitching things together here, but meditating played a massive part in that for me, because another game-changing point in my life where I felt like if you can, you are not your thoughts. And so if you can step outside and look internally and say, okay, the thoughts that are going through my head and me are two different things, you can actually notice that, and then you can just like swat them away like a like a fly swatter. And that's what I started doing. So you can almost visualize the thought coming in, and you get off a call where you've been rejected, or someone didn't want to buy into your business, or you've been rejected by a girl or whatever, and you go, oh, why doesn't that person like me? Oh, why doesn't that person want to do business with me? It must be because this, that, and the other. And then you just notice that. You go, oh, no, that's your mind again playing tricks on you. See you later, swat it away, and then move on. So to be able to notice that was the power for me. And meditating definitely helped me sort of grow that muscle, so to speak.
Yeah, meditating's crazy. I feel like that was one of the single most life-changing habits I brought in, and it turned me into a completely different person. So I'm a huge proponent of it. I'm a huge proponent of any mindfulness practice that allows you to understand the web of your brain a little bit better, because it creates massive change in the way you operate and the way you interact with the world, which then creates a better life.
Massively. And I think that anyone out there listening, anyone that thinks that all the highest performers and most successful people in the world don't have self-doubt, don't have demons, don't have all these thoughts that go through their head is kidding themselves. Everyone has it. People that I look up to, the Jeff Bezos and the Elon Musks and the Mark Cubans, probably he's my guy for sure. I look up to him a lot. And all these guys have self-doubt. They just deal with it differently to us normal people.
Us common folk.
Yeah, that was the word I was looking for. But it's funny. Sometimes if I'm stressing out about something, I'll think, mate, what would Elon do? What would Jeff do? What would Mark do? Would they be sitting there having a teary over this, losing sleep over this small little deal that you've just lost or whatever? And that's when you snap yourself out of it. And so, that's not to say that these guys are gods, or guys and girls, any successful man or woman, they're gods or anything like that. But you've got to use these things to kind of motivate yourself and help yourself snap out of little funks that you might be in, because we all get in them.
What techniques do you have to snap out of kind of the funk or the stress that running events has potentially laid onto you over the years?
Yeah, so I think that you got to know yourself, because everyone deals with things differently. And I've learned over the years, sometimes you just have to be in a funk. So if I'm having a shit day or a shit week, sometimes I might be like, you know what? Tomorrow I'm literally just going to sit on the couch, watch Netflix, order Uber Eats, and just rest. And just, if I'm feeling flat, a bit miserable, fine. Just be. Just do that. And then it's a forced way of just stopping your brain, slowing down, maybe leaning into your vices if you're going to eat shit food or whatever. That's fine. Just do that for a bit. And then you'll get back on your feet. The next day is a new day. So for me, that's what I do. Sometimes timing, deliverables, things, you may not be able to do that. You may have to keep going. But I think it's knowing yourself and knowing your body. And then things like over the years, and you and I have had discussions about this before, I'm not really drinking a lot anymore. I'm in a period at the moment where I'm not really drinking at all. At some stage in my life, I will give up drinking forever. I have no doubt about that. So that's been huge for me, because it kind of gets you off the roller coaster. But there's many, many, many challenges that come with that as well. But I just think looking after your body and getting plenty of sleep, not drinking, fuck, I'm sounding like an old man now. Mate, it's gold. It's so good.
It is gold. How do you reconcile not drinking while also contributing to an industry that revolves around drinking?
Yeah, great question. I feel like your journey as a person and as a promoter that is providing these good times is almost, I've started to see things through a different lens. Back in the day, I just thought every single person here's off their face having a good time. Then as you get older, a bit more wiser, probably stop partying yourself, which I have absolutely done. You think, oh, okay, it's not the case. So there's plenty of people there that are sober or that might be having one or two drinks. So everyone's having the time that they want to have, and that's fine. That's totally fine, and that's what I've noticed. And yeah, to go from thinking, oh, I need to have a bunch of drinks, have a good time, to kind of moving out of that and then stopping drinking and then thinking, oh, am I boring? I feel bored. I feel flat because I don't have that big roller coaster, to look forward to. But then as time goes on, you start to be feeling always. Sometimes I feel like I'm always high, even though I'm not.
Yeah.
Yeah. And yes, you have your ups and downs, and then you start to train the muscle of going out, socializing. And like the other day, we went to Vintage Culture.
Oh, how was that show?
At the Timber Yard. It was good. Speaking of drinking, I would say he's a little bit inebriated himself towards the end of the set, which it got a bit sloppy at the end.
It happens.
Which was funny. Yeah, but it was still a good show. But yeah, I was having a great time. I was dancing. I went out to the 161 25th birthday the other night, stone cold sober, having a great time. And so, yeah, you just develop as a person, and it's just a really interesting journey.
Just quickly though, I love doing this podcast. If it's positively impacted you in some way and you would like to support us, please subscribe. By subscribing, it allows us to build a much bigger base of listeners, which results in better guests, better production, and a better show overall. Alternatively, please take a look at the affiliate links of the products that I use and love in the comments below, and consider purchasing using those links. They'll give you a discount, and they'll also provide the podcast a small kickback. These are two very easy ways for you to support us as we continue to grow the podcast that we absolutely love doing. Thank you for your support, and now back to the episode.
For sure. Well, let's jump back up into a little bit of a high level again, and I wanted to go back to the uniqueness of your experience in building a big brand and putting on a large festival. What was the largest challenge you faced when scaling Reminisce to the 10,000 capacity level? How did you feel at that time, and how did you overcome it?
Yeah, this is good. The largest challenge that we face in terms of actually selling the tickets was not having enough, I guess, proof of concept. We had proof of concept for a small show, but was it going to translate to the bowl? Now, we were really lucky, and some may call it luck. You make your own luck in life sometimes, to have that partnership with Hardware, who had done shows at the bowl themselves before, Picnic Electronic and whatnot. So we could then use some of the content that they had to kind of give that big event feel, but it's still, and even it wouldn't have been consciously, but subconsciously, people are watching the videos and looking at the photos, and it's not Reminisce because they weren't actually photos from Rem, and we weren't claiming that they were, but it was having to be so resourceful with everything that we had at our disposal to make this whole thing feel massive. And that was the biggest challenge. And it was just, so I quit my job to do this. So I was working full-time in a big agency, and I was working on NAB. So I had a really high-pressure, high-performing job. I was managing a team of 9 people. And Reminisce was in March, and I quit in October just to work on this campaign. And I just thought, I can just live off my savings and earn a little bit from doing some freelance digital, but just focus every waking minute on getting this thing off the ground. So it was almost 6 months. Yeah, it was 6 months. And just the tiny little 1%ers, I had a massive sheet of things that we want to roll out, little tiny little marketing techniques and strategies to get more people. And it was just constant. I was living with my business partner. Yeah. Well, now it turned into this massive tracker that we use every year, which is interesting. But yeah, I was living with my best mate and business partner in Reminisce at the time. He's still my business partner and still my best mate. And we had
Is that Mark?
butcher's paper. Yeah, Mark. We had butcher's paper spread across the whole apartment with all of these marketing funnels and strategies to get people to vote. And I would just be working at the kitchen table every single night, every single morning. And we just went at it for 6 months. And I fell in a fucking heap the week before. I just grinded. And we'd sold, I think, say 5,000 tickets by that time.
What was your break even?
And we'd broken even. So stupidly looking back at it now, I'm like, what was I worried about? But I think because I pumped it up in my head so much that we were going to, we were going to do 10,000 in that first year and we were going to make all this money and all this stuff. I kind of set the bar really high. And then when I wasn't hitting that bar, I was getting frustrated. And then the weather forecast came out and it was forecast like rain and thunderstorms. And I was just thinking, why? Like, why is this happening to us? I was in not a great mindset, I think, because I just grinded so hard and I dedicated myself to this thing probably too much. I had no balance whatsoever in what I was doing. So I was in a very scarcity mindset at that time. And it kind of took me to hit that breaking point for me to fall down to then get back up and say, hey, we've done a great job. We've broken even. There's going to be 6,000-7,000 people at this event. It's going to be awesome. But because I hadn't done an event there before, I was thinking, oh, the bowl's going to look empty. It's going to look patchy. Everyone's going to think, oh, there's no one here. This sucks. I was thinking all this doom and gloom stuff in my head. Luckily, I've got good business partners and good people around me that kind of wrestled me out of that. But, I'll pat myself on the back here. That fire and that passion, which would sometimes cause me, definitely not so much anymore, but back in the day would cause me to burn out and fall in a heap. That's what made and makes Reminisce, so magic is that passion. But sometimes you can over-index on it, and that's absolutely what I did quite a few times. And I suffered because of it, but hey, it's all a journey, right?
It's all part of the game.
Yeah, exactly.
Do you think you could have done this without a co-founder?
Nah, definitely not. The mishmash of our skills and everything like that is amazing. Mark, as well as Sean, as well as obviously Hardware's partnership, it's all been a great union of many skills and talents and connections and networks and all of that. Now, don't get me wrong, we've had our challenges, big ones, and we always will. Everyone does. But looking at holistically, yeah, it's been a great ride.
How do you maintain good co-founder relationships? Because it's a tough one, especially in this industry.
Yep, it absolutely is. It's all comes down to communication. And what I've found is over the years in any relationship is setting expectations of what's expected from each person and then keeping those people accountable with open, honest communication is the absolute key. And I'll be the first to admit we did not do that well at all for a long, long time.
Sure.
And it caused a lot of headaches and a lot of hard, heated conversations. What changed? Just, the awareness of what needs to be done. for example, a new partnership that I've entered into last year, which was with our Tailgate Festival. Just, it's so funny. I can see all the traps straight away and just hitting them off before they come, which has been important, because the one thing that I've always remembered, I'm kind of quoting lots of people here, but I think it was Bill Gates just says, like, the sooner that you come to terms with the fact that life isn't fair, the better that you can get on with your life. And so I was always looking for, it's got to be fair, it's got to be even. Now, that's not to say just roll over and, get screwed over, but it's just, it never works out to be 100% fair and a perfect match. For this person's providing this exact amount of value, this person's providing this exact amount of value, and vice versa. It all comes out in the wash and it all works out in the end. But if you get too caught up on trying to make it exactly fair, it can actually make you lose sight of where you're going.
So what would be some techniques and some examples of how to manage a co-founder relationship well?
Yeah, I think documenting what is expected from each person and then revisiting that regularly. Don't just bury it in your folder and leave it there and not look at it again. You need to have regular check-ins, and you've got to stick to your process, because we get so busy. We've got 100 different things on. It's like, we don't need to have that shareholders meeting because, we know what we're doing. Let's just keep going. And like I said, we did that many times, said, no, don't worry about it. You definitely have to have it, because it just brings up so many things. And if you create a safe space for each other to communicate and talk, whether it's a certain office that you go into, a certain meeting room, maybe you go out, you have lunch, you have a steak, whatever it is, it's your little tradition. Then you stick to that tradition, and that's when you can all sit there and have an open round table. And everyone's got to come to the party and be open to feedback and be open to giving feedback. Because if there's certain partners that aren't, that's when it can become troublesome, because everyone communicates differently. Everyone's got different emotions. Some people don't necessarily like to show their emotions or to show their frustrations. So you've got to just be really open to help each other out in doing that.
When do you think it's important to then walk away? What do you think would be the trigger point where you go, you know what, it's time to let it go?
Yeah, everyone's got different variables, so it's a tough one to answer. But I think the main point on that would be, if you feel that all the decision making that you're doing is based around other people and your frustration towards them or their needs over yours, that's when it's probably time to revisit what you're doing, because you're not actually doing it for yourself.
What do you mean? Sorry, I don't understand.
Well, if you're sitting there and thinking, I'm going to keep going, I'm going to keep doing this because this person deserves it, I don't want to let them down. I don't want to let this person down. That's when you're saying, okay, of course you need to think about other people and be considerate of others, but if you're putting everyone's needs in front of your own, that's when it's probably time to have a look at it and go, hey, I'm not serving myself here. I'm just doing this for other reasons. What people think of me, if I don't want to make them feel bad, I'm worried about their situation. If it's all external, that's when you probably need to have a look at it.
What do you think would have happened if you were doing Reminisce part-time? Do you think you could have made it work? Do you think it would have just flopped? Because there's a lot to be said about focus.
I think during that time, I don't know. I don't have a crystal ball, and I've actually done a lot of self-reflection on this over the years about that period, because I personally, and we all generally do this, have grown to work a lot smarter, work a lot more efficiently, and not just mindlessly grind at certain things, which always has its place at the start. But I think back now and think, I think we could have executed that campaign. But that's me sitting here now in this present day and age where what I know, all of my processes, all of you talked about the spreadsheet, all our spreadsheets, we've got it all there. Like, yeah, we could do that in a heartbeat, but we had to do that grind to get here. So to answer your question, probably not.
How do I get a copy of this spreadsheet? It sounds great.
Happy to share the template.
I'd love that. I'd love to see. I mean, at this point, I think I'm done with events, to be fair. Like, I'm tired. Going to gallivant off to New York and become a podcast.
Just play gigs and live the NYC dream. Yeah, why not? Whatever suits, mate.
Maybe I'll come back in 10 years and we can do something together. a sober festival.
Love it. Yeah, there you go. The swings and roundabouts of life.
Exactly.
Do a yoga and event marketing retreat. There you go.
Man,
bang, done.
Who knows? So, we've spoken about the challenges, but what has been the biggest pinch me moment of this career? And what's been the hardest moment where you're about to give up and you didn't? And why didn't you?
Yeah, pinch me moment would have been that first Reminisce that we did at the bowl, because having gone to so many festivals at that venue from when I was 18 to say 23, 24, and being young, just cutting my teeth in the industry, it was just such a big thing for us. New Year's Day, summer days at the Music Bowl was just everything. It was like Christmas Day. And that was just the biggest thing. And it's funny, I actually, and you know this, I used to DJ back in the day, and I used to want to be the world's best DJ. And I used to want to be the number one DJ in the world. And I was so adamant that I was going to be. And I used to visualize so heavily when I was going for a run or I was in the shower or whatnot, me standing on stage at the Music Bowl, DJing in front of thousands and thousands of people, and just used to think that's going to happen, that's going to happen. And then my DJ career ended, quote unquote, I failed. And I guess that dream obviously dropped away. But then when we built up Reminisce and then took it to the Music Bowl, then I'm standing there running an event at that very venue that I'd visualized, standing there DJing with thousands and thousands of people, but it's actually my event. And that's when I was like, holy shit, like this is a full circle, 360, going from that young, 18-year-old who loves going to summer days to party, who wants to DJ up there, to being the guy who's actually running the event and there's thousands of people there. So for me, that was definitely the most full circle moment and the pinch me moment for sure.
I love it. And what was the hardest moment when you were about to give up and didn't? Where you could have, it would have toss of a coin where you would have given up?
Look, the obvious one there is COVID.
Yeah.
It affected everyone. It affected us massively because our event was meant to be 6 days after the shutdown. So we were so on the borderline as it was leading up into that time, where it was almost like you'd rather your event have been 2 months later because you weren't so close to it. And so it was such a stressful time because we just didn't know what the hell was going on. We were at the mercy of the authorities. And the hardest thing was that we didn't have any of the ticket money because it had all been held in trust for the Music Bowl.
Oh, okay.
So we'd paid for our entire event. And this was only the second Reminisce that we did. So It was 2019, had the massive one, didn't make a heap of money because you never do in a first event.
Well, the profit's in the last 20%, really.
Correct.
Yeah.
And so then we'd sold really strongly and we were in a very, very strong financial position in this second event for the second year. And that's when I was thinking, this is it. Come to me. I've made it. This is it. This is everything.
Yeah.
This is everything I've worked for in my life has led me to this point. And now it's fucking payday. And then 6 days out, we had to cancel it.
You can't but laugh, can you?
No.
You can't but laugh.
Yeah.
Oh.
And it was so tough. And like I said, we were very heavily invested. We dumped, between Mark and I, we dumped 100K of our own money into it, plus our business partners and everything had obviously put in their money as well. And we didn't see that money for 18 months after that until we could actually hold the event. So, yeah, that was tough. That was a grind, but we got through it. And that's what I said before. Resilience is everything, and everyone had their own journey in COVID and had their own issues. And, you know, I'm grateful for my health and living in a Western country where I've got clean water and all that sort of stuff. And that mindset, that mentality definitely helped get me through those times.
Yeah, well, thank you for sharing. It's tough. I understand. I understand fully.
Yeah, absolutely.
So I don't know when I'm going to see the money again, if ever. But yeah, you got to just keep going, and it's all part of the arc, right? The story. Come back
exactly.
Come back stronger, and you give up, and it's done.
Yeah, I don't think give up. I think anyone that's doing anything good and having a crack, I don't think we give up. I think you just pivot. You know, you change direction is probably a better word. You know,
pivot to.
I think giving up is saying, stuff this. I'm just gonna, not do anything and bury my head in the sand and whatnot. That's giving up. But if you're doing something, you're doing anything, you're having a crack, then you're still going. The fire's not out.
Going to pivot to Uber Eats and the couch.
That's it. Just do that every day.
That's it. We're done. Love it. No, never. The grind continues. It's I did a podcast with Sabri Subi, and we were talking about, because Corey, very intimately the challenges I've had over the last 24 months and the hundreds of thousands of dollars that I've pissed up the fucking up the wall trying to run festivals, thinking, having a similar dream to you and not quite getting there. But when I had that podcast with Sabri Subi, this is popping into my mind. We were talking about this, and he's like, it's part of the story. It's part of the story. It's not as fun if it was all working. So
exactly. Exactly. And I actually said this the other day when I was having a chat to someone else. I said, because Richie wrote this in his book, I think it was Michael Koppel that said it to him back in the day, that if you haven't lost a house on an event, you're not a real promoter. And that's something that stuck with me.
That's
and
such
I
a
thought,
ridiculous sentence.
these guys are fucking ballers, man. They're absolute ballers, And so that's what stuck with me, and thought this is the level that you want to play at. If you want to win big, you got to be willing to lose big. And we've both been in that situation. And yeah, everyone has their different story arc, and you can sit there and can compare yourself to everyone. Like you can be saying that right now, but I sit there and go, when Jeff Bezos was 37, what was he doing? And so everyone's got their own journey, and you can't compare. You've just got to stick at what you're doing, and what you're doing now. Someone is probably looking at you, going, "Man, I wish I was doing that," and vice versa. Where you are now, you probably wish you were 5 years ago. All that sort of stuff. It's as exactly what you said. Everyone has their own journey.
Well, it's an interesting one. Who knows if I would be here if not for all of this, shutting down of things that I was working on in Australia. If I had really, really deep ties, probably wouldn't have made the move. And I do forget that sometimes, that I'm living in New York City and I'm investing in businesses here, and I'm doing the craziest shit that I can't even explain to people.
Yeah. It's awesome.
It's great. But it probably wouldn't have happened if I was just ticking along in Australia.
Absolutely. You can look at the sliding doors of life, and I feel like if you're generally just a positive person and you've got a positive mindset around things, good shit just happens to you. Now, it's not saying that it happens. You, as I said before, you make your own luck, but if you've generally got a positive outlook on life and you put good energy out there, then good things happen, and you can look back and you can say, wow, what if this happened and that happened? If that didn't happen, I wouldn't be where I am today. And quite often I actually do look back at that and think, holy shit, like, I was so lucky that one thing happened.
Yeah.
And that led me to this point.
Yeah.
You know, it's cool.
It is very cool. So what views do you have that would potentially make most people scratch their head or even get angry?
Oh, love that question. That's brilliant. Sometimes, so I'm a really open and emotional person with my feelings. So sometimes I can, I guess, put people off guard when I first meet them, whether that's someone I'm dating or friends, whatever, because I just want to start talking about the universe and the Big Bang and why we all on this earth, and all of that sort of stuff. And I think some people can think, they can get annoyed and think, oh, but if your mentality around everything is, oh, it'll all work out because the universe it'll do its thing and it's meant to be, how can you go through life just living with that mentality? Like, don't you sometimes get down and get depressed and get agitated and think, oh, this is fucked, everyone's against me, all this sort of stuff? And the answer is absolutely I do. But if you have an overarching good mindset around that, then I think the world does good things for you. And so, yeah, I'm always just very curious about why the fuck we're here. Like, how lucky are we that the Big Bang even happened? How lucky are we that our solar system even formed? How lucky are we that we landed on this planet that's exactly the right distance from the sun, that has got a moon, that makes the seasons, that gives us a perfect year that we can live in, and that we were even born, like that our parents had sex on that one night that got us to the front of the line, that we won the swimming race, that we were fucking born into Western society with a roof over our head, clean water. It just, when going gets tough, you look at that and you go, fuck, it's not all that bad. It's all actually really good.
Congratulations on being the fastest sperm.
Yes. Like, when it all gets going gets tough, just think about that. And
You've been a winner since we began.
That's it.
Oh God, I love that. That's so funny. So, what's the biggest thing in the last 2 years you've changed your mind on?
I know that was going to be. I was going to say something really marketing nerdish because I was literally talking about it yesterday. No, it's actually something to do with event marketing and meta ads.
Go on.
I would always be critical internally of some clients that would say, "Oh, I'm not seeing my ads. And I've got all these crap people that are engaging in my ads. It's not working." When what matters is ticket sales and revenue and everything like that. But I've actually noticed, since I've been running a lot of my own personal campaigns, so I'm watching it a lot closer, my kind of gut feel is that probably is the case, because you can see that if certain people are liking, engaging, following in what you're doing, and you look at those people individually and you can see they're from your target market, that's a really good indicator that your ads are working well and they're hitting the right audience. When you put out stuff that's not, you can see that you click through these people, they might just have a random profile picture that you're like, these guys aren't from my target market. It's a really good indicator. So having a really close watch on that has been a definitely turning point for me. And I actually said it to my team yesterday, and they said, "Oh, you're just sounding like the clients now." I'm like, actually, I think they might be right.
Yeah.
Which is interesting.
I mean, it's a fine line with advertising, because, you know, agencies are going to get defensive a lot of the times.
Yeah.
You go, it's not me, it's not us. And you can, unfortunately for the client side, the advertising agency can hide behind bullshit numbers for a long time.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So as a world-class...
They certainly can.
As a world-class agency, you've got to cut through that noise, and I feel like you'll have so many more clients than what you can cut through that bullshit.
100%. And that goes back to the exact point that I was making, is I never would want to use those vanity metrics as a reason for success. It was always about sales. But I think that, as with anything in life, everything with balance is important. And using those as a diagnostic has actually become a good tool to be able to see that. But you're exactly right. And that's a lot of the meat behind my messaging with what I'm doing with the Sellout marketing system, the Sellout Academy and everything at the moment, is so many event promoters just get absolutely burned by their agency. And half the time the agency doesn't know what the fuck they're doing, because they've never ran an event before in their life. And they don't know the intricacies that come with running an event. So they're just sitting there spitting out all this marketing jargon saying, oh, the CTR's this and the CPC's this, and we're getting this many video views and whatnot. But how's that fitting into the overall strategy? How are you getting your fence sitters off the fence? How are you actually using that to sell tickets? How are you making sure that we're still getting social proof on our ads while still getting good performance on what we're doing? So unless you're telling that story as an agency and you're speaking in the language of an event promoter, then how can you prove that you're getting the job done if you're not selling tickets? Because at the end of the day, that's all that matters, right?
Yeah, exactly. I feel like you've hit the nail on the head there, and I feel like once you figure that out and once you really implement that into the career, you know, into the business, your clients will just go through the roof, and your clients will be much more satisfied, because I've been on that other end of exactly what you're saying.
Yeah.
On the other end, it takes, and, you know, I'm pretty savvy with this sort of stuff, and it still takes a week of figuring it out to realize that, no, this was the problem. And a quote is popping into my mind that I heard of Jeff Bezos, our boy. He would be talking about when there were issues at Amazon, not to look at the metrics, look at the specifics. Like basically anecdotes are more real than potentially the metrics can be. So he would talk about, like, he would be in these meetings with his staff, and they would say, yeah, we're doing great. Our 5 minute, our wait times on the phones are 4 minutes. Amazing. It's an average of 4 minutes. And then Jeff might say, oh, but my cousin went on and he said he told me he waited for 20 minutes. He's like, and then in the meetings he'd go, let's pick up the phone and let's call customer service. And Brilliant. They would call and they would wait for 20 minutes.
Yeah.
And that would be the decision-making criteria. So I think data is really important, but the flip side of that is, if there's a gut feeling and there are, one-on-one instances, they're worth digging into with some genuine consideration. And sometimes if the data in those one-on-one instances don't match, the data potentially could be wrong and the instance is correct more often than not.
Absolutely. And I find that a lot, and I have found that a lot over the years with juniors and people who are just coming into the game, people in your team or agencies that I've worked with, where it's funny, they'll look at the reporting and say the ads manager or Google Analytics, and they'll be like, oh yeah, awesome, we sold 400 tickets at this amount per ticket. And then you'll dig into it and you'll go, well, that's what your analytics is saying, but my ticketing platform is telling me that we've actually only sold 200 tickets. So how the fuck could we have sold 400 from Meta?
Yeah.
So you've got to look at the whole journey and you've got to tell the whole story.
Yeah.
And that is absolutely critical. And it's something that every single time a new person, would come into our team who's a bit of a junior and doesn't have the experience, it is the number one thing that I always try to educate them on is if you just go into a client meeting and if you've got numbers up there and you've got graphs and charts, you have to be bulletproof with every single I dotted and T crossed, because they are going to drill that thing down to the nth degree.
Yeah.
And they're going to say, yeah, but what about this? Why is that there? And no, but this actually says this in the ticketing platform. So unless you have a reason, like what happened, why did it happen, and what are we doing to either keep the good work up or fix what's not working, and all of the reasons sitting under that, then you're fucked, basically, because they're going to pull you to shreds.
Yeah.
And so it's so important to have that story. And if things aren't going well, it's fine. Just this is what's going right. This is what's going wrong. We can do A, B, C, and D better. So this is what we're going to try next time. And this is where we're hopefully going to be sitting next time we meet. Like, you just got to have that. You got to have that full story, and you got to just be open and transparent with it.
100%. So moving on to the last couple of questions I have on this podcast, which has been amazing, by the way. You've absolutely crushed this.
Thanks, mate.
Been really good.
It's been good fun.
Yeah, man. A couple of little lighthearted ones. What's the kindest thing anyone's ever done for you?
The kindest thing that anyone has ever done for me, I mean, instantly as soon as you said that, I just went straight to my mum.
Outside of that one.
Fuck.
Because everyone says that one.
Yeah. There are some just amazing people in this world. I keep going back to Mark, to my best mate. Now, he wouldn't ever think this, and I'm not going to give you one single thing because it's not a certain gesture, but he's like the Batman or the Robin to my Batman, and to have me, this very emotionally charged person who lives with a lot of passion and emotion, and he is just this grounded voice of reason. So the amount of times that he has just been there to support me, and he'll just drop anything he's doing if I'm having a day, having a week, falling in a bit of a heap. He'll just drop anything that he's doing to help me out, to come around, have a drink, let's go have a feed, talk it through, whatever. So I think to have that person alongside you and have a best friend that does that has been just incredible for me over the years. So yeah, I would have to say his support for sure.
Great. And if you could only recommend one book for somebody to read for their whole life, what would it be?
My favourite author is Robert Greene. I keep going back to him, but probably, but I'm going to veer off him and say probably The Obstacle is the Way by Ryan Holiday. That was a real game changer for me, to understand that you just got to push through the obstacles. Whatever, a quote by Tim Ferriss, what you fear doing most is usually what you most need to do.
Yeah.
And so when something's a big obstacle in your way, that's usually where you should head. So I think for me, that one, to be able to get through adversity was a massive one, and a book that everyone should read.
Yeah, that's a great book. That when I was going through kind of the really tough, last couple of years with the festivals, that book, I remember reading on my fire escape in New York while I was trying to plan for the second year, and I was having all these doubts and all this fear. And I kept pushing through. It didn't work out, but I still pushed through. The other thing that was really good was the Founders podcast. Have you heard of the Founders podcast?
Yes. Yep.
And
Absolutely.
Just listening to that, and listening to so many different highly successful entrepreneurs feeling the exact same way I'm feeling, which is like, can't do it. I'm out. This is horrible. About to give up. And those two.
And you realize they're just human beings like us, right?
Yeah, which means, we can do this just as well as anyone else.
Exactly. Another good one for that is called The Quest by Justin Kahn. Mm-hmm. That's one of my other favorites. He talks to entrepreneurs, same thing, of the entrepreneurs who've quote unquote made it. They've exited, they've sold their company for hundreds of millions. And what do they wish that they did through the journey to help them through the journey better, to understand, hey, it's all going to work out in the end. Don't stress so much about getting to a destination. That's a really good one.
Yeah, I like it. So with that in mind, what are you excited about that you're currently working on that you'd like to share with the audience?
I've got a project I can't really share too much information on at this point, but I'd like to get it on the record that let's talk in 12 to 24 months, and it's going to change the face of the event tech industry.
Big call.
Yeah.
All right.
Very exciting.
Can't wait to clip that back in 5 years' time.
Hell yeah. Hell yeah.
When this podcast has 1 million listeners and you've gone on to IPO.
Which we love.
Yeah. So, well, great. So where can people find you if they're interested in learning more about you and your world?
Probably just Instagram or Twitter/X, just at Corey Topp, CoreyTopp. Probably the best place to start. On all the platforms, TikTok and LinkedIn as well.
Great. And the last easy question to round it off is, what's the meaning of life?
Go back to where we started.
It's a circle, brother.
I love it. Yeah, exactly. I think the meaning of life is to feel happy and fulfilled with whatever the hell it is that you're doing. If you're doing that, then it doesn't matter what's in the meat of that. It's just all about feeling happy and fulfilled and having a sense of purpose.
Great. Thank you for your time, Corey. Thank you for your energy. I appreciate you. It's been amazing to catch up.
Thank you, legend.
Of course.
It has been. It's been great. Great chat.
No. And anyone else listening that's made it this far, please give the episode a like, subscribe, and the podcast a rating. It helps us a lot. Until next time.